is saying, look, you might come into the research, you might come into the game plan, but after game 1, realize who's winning, who's losing, who's performing, unlock your best players, lock down their best players. Chris's Elise, significantly less powerful than his Riven. That was a big change in power. Keep that going.
Pretty standard picks and bans coming out. Kassadin still finding himself out. As we see COG in these games, I wonder if they'll try to fight for more dragons, because I feel like they're giving Curse just the upper hand in fights, saying, yeah, you're a little bit more veteran in this situation. We'll wait until we can pound it out in the mid game.
Yeah, so for sure, COG needs to take more initiative here. That is a very important thing for these guys. They've got to figure out what it's going to take for them to kind of get rolling and make things happen. The analyst has talked about it. We talked about it last game as well. The other interesting thing I want to point out here for COG is that with only a couple of bans, they've kept Voyboy really sequestered. Again, game 1 didn't look very good. Game 2 kind of sat there in lane. They've only really sent now 2 bans at him, Cass and Vlad, and said, okay, well, what else can you run here? What else can you even play with? Because if Voyboy's not comfortable with 2 bans in his champion pool, that's not good for Curse.
Olaf gets through, Ziggs gets through, things we've seen banned within these last game, I should say. This is going to be big. Everybody's kind of talking about the quads still and saying, we want him to go mid, but it looks like Voyboy is going to take it. He has quite a big champion pool as well, so Curse could definitely throw some, a wrench, or many wrenches.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if they go for Heimbedingers, then they got a lot of wrenches to throw at them. But Quas right here, I like the first pick onto Ziggs, though, right? He's got a huge win rate. I think he's maybe lost 1 or 0 games over like 10 picks throughout the promo tournament overall, and has been picked or banned in every game this series so far. Of course, that was a win for Zamfira in game 1. Curse, of course, getting banned actually by COG in game 2, but here's Curse back with Ziggs. Important pick for them. It's going to, I think, unlock Voyboy pretty well. Could allow him to roam the map and make plays, and it's just a very powerful champion.
Well, that's the thing. Voyboy did do some work that he needed to do, because he drew a Vladimir ban, which means that was a huge threat. They saw the impact of the amplified power composition coming through. Sunfire Shiv, Mundo Sunfire, and it was way too much. You could see the health bars dropping, and nobody's really using abilities in those fights. So he will be waiting once again to get that pick in, but we do see the Annie support for Zken.
So I want to see how this comp starts panning out here for Cognitive, because they've got Sivir and Olaf locked in already. And the one thing I think about with Annie's support is I think she's weak against Double Bruiser, because trying to engage on a big beefy front line with like a 500 damage Tibbers kind of gets shrugged off by people like Olaf and Vi, really. Whereas on the other side, if you actually lock in the Vi here, I think is a very good choice for COG. You've got Sivir to dive them in there, and a bunch of people who can dive in and start the fight. Okay, that's not the case here for COG. So now it's actually a little bit more unlocked, but you know, COG got a couple of really heavy contested picks. The Olaf, the Sivir, both coming through, both very successful as well. Some good picks coming through for these guys, at least.
We do see the Leona banned out as well again. That has just been really a huge initiation on Annie. We saw a lot that Annie could not get Tibbers off. Flash Tibbers was up every fight because Solar Flare would be the initiation. So they get that out. Annie may be a little bit more usable within the situation.
So with Draven being hovered over as well, we look sort of at the Curse lineup overall, and they're running a very similar team every time through. Dominate and Quas have been Bash Brothers. And I know officially that's Nasus and Renekton, but really they've been these frontline bruisers who are difficult to get rid of.
Subbing out.
Yeah, they jump on nothing here partway through the game if they can help it. They also do a really good, job of locking down the double AD comp, which we saw last time as well. And it's just a very strong lineup here. And with the Annie, who can initiate, with Ziggs, who can follow up, with Draven, who's actually reasonably self-sufficient in the back line because you can keep hitting Blood Rush and move fast. It's a very cohesive Curse team where they've got some good early game power through the Renekton and whatnot. But then also it scales in a late game with Draven gets some kills, Mundo powers up, and Ziggs powers up.
So both of these teams have shaken off the bad picks. They figured out what to do here. We got Quaz going back on Renekton. We saw him going for the TMS, Spirit Visions, Randuins, and Black Cleaver build. Not super innovative in its own rights, but really, like Benny said, a squishier Renekton he would have liked to see.
Yeah, so I think I want to know if he changes his build around a little bit, because if you can just tank out the Elise, that's a really good thing for him. If he can just like survive any split pusher, Quas can keep making plays and keep creating pressure. That's important for him here on Renekton. For COG, though, I'm looking at this team, and it's like, okay, so Olaf's going to be a big menace. Now, do you bring a friend with Olaf? Elise is not not really a bruiser here. She's kind of, she's mostly assassin, spikes out the damage really quickly, and then starts petering out. So no one's really there to follow the Olaf around to keep making plays. So he's just kind of there as like a general frontliner. So what COG's going for here instead is a lot more control. They've got the Sivir movement speed, Elise can start picking things off, Orianna can pick things off, start fights out, but it's a very generalist team with it's a very like Season 3 team.
Yeah.
We got a frontline, we got a backline, we got utility. We're pretty much good in any situation here for COG, and I think it's a better version of like what Curse ran in Game 1, where it actually has some synergy here.
They do have Quas, as we said, on Renekton, which was diving a little too far past, and you could easily get that with an Olaf. The team overfocuses him, tries to chase him down. He's going to have Ragnarok on. Definitely something to look for as Curse approaches these team fights if they do stick together. Quas was a little more team-oriented last game, but on the Renekton, you want to go to the back line, but you're also hoping somebody follows you.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's going to be that for Dominate. And the only thing really that happens here on the other side, though, right, the brothers go in, and Curse has a good way of getting in the back. There's one thing that I'm worried about for Cop. So he's on Draven. Draven doesn't escape things very easily, and the one thing that can really screw with him is Elise Repel plus Orianna Shockwave. That's like the one way that COG has in on Cop, but it's a really, I would say, reliable way in and really devastating. He's either got to flash the Shockwave or somehow get so much support that he doesn't die to the Shockwave and then like a re-engage combo. That's one thing to watch for in this game.
Another one, Voidboy versus Zamfira. We really haven't seen the roam from these lanes until the 2v2 is halfway played out and somebody's limping away bleeding, and then they get there for the kill. So they have been actually giving each other quite a hard time in mid. Not through kills, but through keeping each other there, keeping it well warded, and alerting their team if there is any roaming. So that's slowing these games down quite a bit too.
It is. These mid laners haven't been able to make plays really on, I would say, either side. I think in the long run, I think Zamfira's done a better job of creating pressure. He's put more turret damage down overall. He's locked his opponent down a little bit more. And as we saw in Game 1, he fairly well carried that game on his own Ziggs. Now that Void's got the Ziggs, I want to see if Void gets to unlock himself and be useful here. Zamfira and Orianna the same way, has a lot of kill pressure. In general, Orianna makes ganks happen and has a heck of a lot of team fight pressure. So I want to see how these teams adapt moving in down the series. All
right, so we have a 1-1. We're locked in at a best of 3 here, and we're going to see the next 2 games. Somebody can take them straight. It would be quite a surprise, as a lot of social media, a lot of people here in the studio saying that these teams are evenly matched right now. And this is why they're butting heads so hard. So we'll have to see if somebody can really take an advantage in the early game and run with it.
So COG already starting out with something very interesting. Now, it's going to be up to Zane King's hook and really quick follow-up. So the hook's going to land. Now, can they get it?
Quas goes in. Oh, no, he does hook down. Can he get against the wall? He does get a beautiful slice and dice. Perfectly positioned on Zane King.
That's really good there by Quas, and that is why when you start the game, you don't just learn your skill at level 1. Quas is like, oh, I'm going to die. So he learns slice and dice. Burn the flash as well. But the reactions to play that one properly, good by Quas.
They're going to give the player that's given them a hard time the exact same thing. So they start this one off with a smile on their face, but they are not going to leave with just that. They want more. They want more smiles.
Yeah, the cool thing about that invade right there is it gave them control. There's no way Curse would re-engage and pressure them out of this lane because they literally couldn't get 5 people there in time with health bars. So COG got wards wherever they wanted them. They get control over the bottom jungle, and that's a really good thing for COG.
That's a quick audible called by Curse as well. We see Quas moving up to the top lane, so they quickly teleport COG to the bottom. This is going to switch up what they wanted in the early game here, so we'll see if it goes in their favor. Whoop.
Yeah, that's okay. Actually, it's still good for COG. Yeah, they use their trinket wards to spot everything and say, all right, we're not getting invaded. Smart choice by Zekent to make sure that invade really was working as they expected. This actually allows I Will Dominate to trade red buffs regardless. It's actually not even that bad for Curse overall. Yeah, it just takes it out with Smite, no big deal. Problem is that Dominate is still kind of waiting around in the enemy side of the map, and the thing is they know what Dominate's up to. So there's a chance he gets stabbed partway through this game.
That red is still hanging. We'll see if they try to pressure. Ziploc has made his way off, and they'll be good. Cop holding this mid lane, so this is going to be one of the first, or mid lane, holding the middle of the lane. This will be the first time we see them match up. So neither COG or Curse have the ability to incorrectly push the lane and give the solo laner an advantage.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be pretty safe right now, honestly, on all sides. We finally have a 2v2 and a 1v1 for the first time this series as well. This is going to be one to watch for because the very pregame, a lot of people said Cop and Zeken was a pretty strong duo lane. They did well in most matchups here. I want to see if that actually happens, especially because Draven Annie is such a strong lane. I would be surprised to see Curse lose this, but this is the first real test to see whose duo lane just is stronger.
So Quaz now against Chris really won't be able to build health because that's just going to help Chris kill him.
Yeah, so I could see him sustaining with Ravenous Hydra and just trying to lifesteal tank everything. The way you kind of fight an Elise is you don't wait for her to run out of mana. It doesn't really work. You pretty much just like clear the waves really fast. You actually shove really hard and then recall. And then shove really hard and recall. So you don't miss many minions. You also sustain back up, but Void's in trouble.
Oh, Satchel charge to get out of that one. Ziploc getting a little extra damage on the side. Okay,
so not too much miss. So yeah, so Quas can play a heavy push game with Ravenous Hydra, which is what he's going for there. His first buy, a very early buy, is a longsword, a ward, and a potion. So he's going to say, look, I don't want to get ganked by the Chris Ziploc combo, and I am going to go for a team map. I am going to try to shove the lane constantly against Chris and not take constant poke.
Seeing the movement just under mid lane here of Dominate. And we would be there for a counter, but Ziploc looks like he's going to head over, clear out his red buff, get that finally situated. And we'll see where he decides to go. Nothing coming from Dominate, nothing coming yet from Ziploc, so it leaves the lanes to be determined by just the players in that. Cop and Zcat, 25 to 21 on that lane, so everybody's really just playing this one out. Like I say, hard hats on. Nobody's trying to push the limits just yet.
Not really, but the mid lane's actually getting kind of interesting. Voidboy's winning this lane matchup. Despite getting pressured out by the enemy jungler, he's putting some pretty decent damage onto Zamfira. And I feel like Void's going to start to be able to create pressure here. The one thing I talked about with the way Coast played this lane throughout their practice games is that you can really push them out of lane with Ziggs, pull your jungler in, and with someone like Mundo with Masochism, you can put some very real damage on an enemy turret and create pressure on structures and unlock mid lane as this like, well, we're going to kill your turret unless you react to this and force COG's hand.
As gets hit up break quite hard. Did not get through anything else, so when they get sliced out of this one, are they going to go into the turret? Dominate's right there, putting himself a human shield between himself and Quaz. But the first blood goes to Dominate. He gets it, and it is going to be the pickup by Chris.
Wow, right place, right time by I Will Dominate. It was a good gank by COG to recognize Quaz's flash was still on cooldown from that level 1. It's just coming back up in the near future.
Whoa.
Oh, this pull though!
Threads the death sentence in. Cop forced to use the barrier right away in the situation, then the flash seeing the follow-up damage. And they are going to be safe on that one. So COG grabbing an advantage in the bottom lane.
Yeah, it's going to be a couple of Summoner's Burn. I like that play. Very good hook there by Zane King. And, well, looks like the duo lane, even with a slightly weak lane like Sivir, doing a great job. I like that.
It's great to see a team doing well together when you only grab members 3 to 4 months ago. Teams that people that haven't been playing whether. Valkyrin was out, Zane King was in, and he's really been just gelling with the team so well, and you can see it in these games.
Yeah, it's really good for these guys being able to put the lineups together, because we've seen so many teams switch lineups throughout the offseason and then have to make it all work so quickly. Gambit even said themselves, like, yeah, getting him back was just so, getting Edward back was just so useful for us. We'd played with him for so long. Yeah, that synergy does matter, and these teams, of course, will continue to improve. But this is when they're tested, is right here. Still fresh lineup, but they got to make it work right now.
It's a best of 5 freak. It tests more than just that physical. It tests the mental. You have to stay positive the whole time. It's something Korean players live off of. There can be no negativity in your gameplay because then you kind of feel that something won't happen. And when you always know you can, move on forward. And right now, Curse is looking to get another win off of what they did last game. Chris didn't really want that fight. He went in, but he didn't want it.
Yeah, just kind of going for harass. I mean, all the spider form abilities are free anyway, so anytime you can press the buttons to mess with your opponent, maybe deal a little bit of damage, there's really no lost resources there, so Chris can be happy to spam right now. But of course, the junglers are looking around, still trying to create pressure. The bottom lane, it's very volatile. Both these AD carries can put out a lot of burst damage with Boomerang Blade or just with Draven being Draven. Annie and Thresh both have a great amount of crowd control from range. They can set up their junglers for kills pretty easily, and I want to see next time these guys show up. Ziploc tried, but turned back around a little while ago.
Dominant usually focuses Quas lane. They look to get him pretty fed right now, but he's doing a little bit of counter jungling of his own, and it looks like we may get focus on Voidboy in mid. They know Ziggs is going to be a problem. He kind of walks it out, but I think he was seen by that ward and saw the movement of Voidboy.
Yeah, so right now these mid laners aren't getting to do very much. The first blue buff is when things start to get really interesting because you've got enough mana to just relentlessly clear your lane out and guarantee there's no opportunity cost to go and roam. So right now the blue buff's being taken about the same time. This is when it starts to get interesting. So, alright, Void's got blue, Zemfira's got blue. Both these champions are very good at killing off minions, and there's not much to do once you kill the minion wave, so it's either going to be like game 1 where Void kept taking race, or they actually start joining their junglers and making plays in the other lanes.
Gold's still very close within this game. Dragon, you know it looks tempting to these teams. They're thinking about it. But right now the laning phase continues. See Voidboy going back to pick up rates. He wants to keep himself safe in lane. There's really nothing to push, so he's letting the wave actually come to his turret every time. He is fearing Ziploc a little bit, and he knows that ultimate from Zamfira can turn things very quickly.
I like that though. The W does a low enough damage that he can last hit while still setting up the rest of them under the turret. It's a good adaptation. It shows that he knows
nice.
Ziggs really well. Yeah, I like that. So Chris actually, interestingly, ran out of Spiderling so far. He's actually been fighting Quas pretty heavily, losing his spiders while doing so, but ultimately running out of mana, which he needs to spawn more spiders.
He thought that was going to be a cocoon, but it was the Q. He gets a good amount of damage in there. Chris feels confident. He's in no mana cost mode. He's just going to keep farming the lane. 55 to 50 there. It's really the best CS matchup we've had, but really the first time they've matched up.
Yeah, exactly. These lanes have actually gone very equal in the head-to-head, right? 7 minions different in the top lane, 8 minions different in the mid lane, just now 7 in the dual lane down here, and of course now it's Cop's turn to go by, so the sort of stagnant, hey, the laning phase is happening, isn't changing very much, with the exception of I Will Dominate. He's had a couple of successful counter jungles into Captain Ziploc, largely due to Ziploc looking for a gank, getting spotted by a ward, and turning back around. Again, we see Curse with heavy ward coverage. It's allowing this. Aggressive wards into the enemy jungle.
I'd say Quas is getting focused just a little bit. He does have that ultimate up. He throws it down, but he's forced to flash as well. Keeping himself safe all the time. He's really costing COG a bit of time that they want to use somewhere else.
Yeah, they're spending a lot of effort on him, though I think I like that choice by COG, because we kind of identified that the best playing player right now for Curse has been Quas. If you shut that guy down, right, that mid-series adaptation, shut down the best player, you just do so much for your team. It really helps you to continue on and have a lot of presence in the mid game, because the star players aren't doing anything right now. Unfortunately, those ganks aren't working just yet, but it burned Quas's flash. They've got another 4.5 minutes to try again. I can see it happening.
Ooh, the ping's going down for Dargon. Yeah, that's Dragon. They're going to be going for it. We'll see Voidboy really moving himself around, farming out these camps. He just went for white, and he's actually keeping up with Zamfira. Now just past him, but Zamfira is doing the same thing. So these guys are adapting to knowing they can't roam because there's too many wards, and just farming the heck out of their jungles.
Yeah, so they're going for that like Season 2, Season 3 style, be a gigantic mid laner with a whole bunch of money. The interesting thing, though, is Zamfira has a very different build from most other Oriannas. We rushed an early tier. Normally the build is like Chalice, Death Cap, like Void Staff, Zonias. Like, those are the 4 items you tend to go for. Of course, the Chalice becoming an Athenians. Well, Zamfira says, you know, the only mana item I want, actually, is a Tear of the Goddess, and I'm going to go towards what I'm guessing is Haunting Guise as an early damage item, and going for, like, a Magic Pen sort of build. You lose some CDR, but you actually gain a lot of extra damage not going for Athenes. It's not a very high damage item, so I want to see how Zamfira's item build pays out here, because he will be bursty at the end game.
Looking at some other inventories, Ziploc going for the Crusher Eyes build. It's pretty normal. He buys the Dorans, but you like it. Undertow doing a good amount of damage as he comes into lane, kind of catches you off guard. We'll see what he kind of turns everything into, because right now Dominate is sitting on that Golem Spirit, so he is quite big with all the tenacity he gets from that. He's ready to move into these fights.
He is, and all the lane matchups, like as we kind of get Dominate moving around the map looking to create plays, all the lanes are fairly equal in terms of item tiers. So anyone he goes to go fight is going to be on equal power, right? Like the dual lane right here, pretty much identical, both with BF, Sword, Vamp, Scepter, and a Doran's Blade. They're actually literally identical. And, you know, kind of a similar situation in the mid lane, kind of a similar situation in the top lane. So it's not like one of these situations where Dominate can say, look, you have an item lead, I'll gank for you because it's a free kill. These guys have to create openings where there aren't any otherwise. They're fighting equal power champions.
Very interesting communication there as if we were looking at the mini-map. Just kind of Quas moving down, and then he went back up. The pink ward really deterred anything from happening at that Dragon, but they're still hanging out in mid. And nope, nothing's really getting pressured. Chris moving down out of lane, probably should be staying and pressuring that lane.
Yeah, he's going to go back for it right now, and Quas is going to show up a little bit late. He'll miss just a hair's worth of gold right here, depending on how he last sits under turret. And this is kind of very different. So unlike in Game 2, where Chris was heavily denied in his 1v2 lane, and the duo lane of Curse tried really hard to deny gold and XP off of Chris, in the heads-up 1v1, you're seeing Quas play very defensively. He's playing towards the back. He's kind of hiding away, making sure he doesn't get pushed out of the lane. And you're seeing him kind of lose minions because of this, that Chris is actually winning that heads-up 1v1.
Oh, just gets it. Sweeper coming out. So it looks like they do get that on the support. It has not been switched over yet by Zane King. Maybe soon. He just threw down his trinket ward. So looks like he's actually going to be occupied with this fight. So not just yet. Bloodthirster to a DF sword, and the scepter coming out for nothing here. So he's not really getting that max damage on his Qs that he's looking for right now. Cobb's going to have a big advantage in these fights.
He really is, and that BT keeps on stacking up. You're seeing the rotation come down from Zamfira. This could be very important. If Curse overextends, there's so much engage potential from Thresh or Orianna that COG can just explode a fight out of nowhere. Curse has to constantly be aware of what Zamfira up to, because he can make us die.
You can see more of the mid wards, Voyboy's ward right there, keeping sure Zamfira isn't roaming too much, and if so, he can communicate it. Dominate. Looks like they'll be hugging this bottom lane right here, but figuring they're not going to get the turret, they want the dragon.
And they really do, and the thing is, I don't know if they're going to be able to take it is the problem, because there's not a lot of ward coverage for Curse. They don't see deep into the enemy jungle, and nothing here has gotten to already back and get his Bloodthirster. So there's no lead to use. They didn't rotate their top lane down sooner. Chris actually putting pressure on his own. This is a remarkably well-timed engage. Problem is he gets spotted out.
Nope. Is he going back? Got to get that last auto attack in. They're just dancing this one out. He's going to get good damage on Quaz, but like I said, Quaz not building that HP, is able to just kind of fight it back. He does have the Tiamat auto reset, so he can get some damage out before they get away.
And the one thing I really like about Quaz's Tiamat build is he just completely shreds Elise's Spiderlings. He actually heal off them with his Q, and it's a significant portion both of her damage and her sustain is those Spiderlings. Quaz is very well poised to remove that power.
It's like they hold the Ziggs bomb. There will be 0 attempt for the dragon, and COG, third game in, grabs their first dragon away from Curse.
And that's kind of what COG's comp does. Their 4v4 is actually very good. It's very well self-contained. It's a lot of crowd control, a good amount of burst, and good follow-through, especially with that Bloodthirster being done. And Curse knows that between Orianna and Sivir, it's easy to catch them, but Quas trying to make plays 1v1.
Itemizing quite well with that Glacial Shroud, but he still takes a good amount of damage, and he's forced to flash Cocoon out of that. Quaz showing dominance in the top lane now, is going to start knowing he can bully Chris around.
Well, he did take his ult. Ooh, nope. Zamfira, you're stuck in lane. But Quas, here's the interesting thing though, is Quas burned his ulti to do a lot of that, and Chris has simply pressed E to disengage. The difficulty is that Chris is running out of mana, but I feel like if Chris can find some way to get a real mana bar here where he can actually cast spells more than a few times, it's a good fight for him.
Could be Cocoon up. He has to switch forms and doesn't have that mana. Turns around so he gets the hit off the front of Chris on Slice and Dice. Very well played.
Still loses Flash for it though, which is really all that COG could have expected to get right here. The rest of the team going in.
Looks like Zane King is going to be the target on this one, but he gets himself out with his shield. It's going to be the Burning Agony, and one last swipe coming from Dominate.
Very well played right there. Amazing spell shield by Nothing here to block the Timber stun and get himself out, but the problem is Thresh doesn't have a spell shield. And Curse is taking the initiative to go and dive and say, you know what, let's go for it. It was a very smart choice right there. When you have an initiator, that's what COG should have done in Game 2. Just start fights, find openings, go for kills.
All right, this game picking up a little bit faster. 2-1 in kills already. We only had 1 kill by now for another 22 minutes. But the turrets are traded. It's going to be gold on either side. Oh, Nothing here. That could exactly be the result of this. He will get the dodge. No, he flashes over the wall. Saves himself.
Wow, and Cop could have flashed to chase it, likely would have gotten the kill, but had completely no vision in that lower jungle and chose the more safe option, which I really can't hate on. I think it's probably the right choice, but Quas with no flash. Ziploc just keeps showing up here.
Fancy moves by Quas. He's all laced up and ready for the fight. Looks like they are going to get themselves back. Chris has been in this top lane with very low mana. He's kind of using whatever reserve comes back while the camera's not on him, and you can see the fights just aren't going all the way they need them to.
They're trying again with Zekan on the roam right here. I don't think anyone makes any huge headway here until I Will Dominate shows up, making it into 3v2.
We also have rotation from Zamfira, and it's going to be Zane King. He'll be janitor duty here if he even tries to get him. He's kind of undecided whether he wants to cover mid from Voyboy or go up to the top lane. Voidboy doesn't look for roam here. His ult's down, but it is on that blue buff. So a lot of potential could come out of this next fight, and COG knows it. They're kind of hovering between what they should do.
Yeah, here's the interesting thing, though, is COG still, I believe, has good playmaking potential.
Yeah.
The problem is they've now left Cop alone in the bottom lane. No one is there at all to defend
He's going to
him.
get a Nexus turret.
Yeah, at least one. I mean, he's so close to it. But yeah, it's free farm that COG's not stopping.
Good choice there. Chris drops down just on the enemy minions in front of the turret, and nothing here is going to be able to meet Cop in the bottom lane. We'll be able to shred out these minions as we saw Sivir doing it last game. He actually could still be going for the static shiv. He's quite far behind, though, because Cop could be finishing this last Whisper quite soon. No, not at all. Almost. Almost down the red buff. Oh, wait. Nope, they did.
Dominate, yeah.
Dominate on the other side.
There we go, okay. Dominate, good job on the red buff grab. I wasn't watching for a second right there, but you're seeing this actually looks a lot like game 2, where CRS just simply slowly but surely outlaned their opponents and built some leads. The difference being that COG actually is getting some pressure on Dragons this time around, which lets them stay into the mid game a little bit better, but CRS are out pressuring the map because COG still aren't forcing a lot. These mid laners still really haven't left their lanes very much.
Yeah.
And it's like, honestly, I feel like 6-item Ziggs is potentially a bigger threat in terms of damage than Orianna. And so in that case, like, the difference between the champions becomes a little bit better towards CRS's favor. Problem is, COG can make plays off Ori so much easier. Same with Sivir.
Oh, is the W just enough? Oh, they're going to go back into the fight. Dominate just on the backside. A very nice spell shield from nothing here, and the kite is going to come in. Chris taking caught axe damage right now from Cop. And it's not anything he wanted. They back out of the fight. Quaz and Voidboy kind of holding down mid lane, and it's going to be, again, I think this is where the top lane gets left alone for quite some time, Freak.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing is, there's been so much effort put onto putting down Quas, and it hasn't turned into anything. Like, how many times has Ziploc shown up there, tried to make the play, and then, you know, they only burned the flash, or Chris missed the cocoon and it didn't happen, or Dominant was there to counter gank. Every single time, something stopped that from actually working, really. The one exception being the dive where they traded and Dominant got first blood anyway. These dives haven't succeeded here for COG. Like, I keep saying they should be making plays. They're trying to. The problem is they're not working. And despite all that, Quas still up 20 minions on his lane opponent. That 1v1 matchup, despite COG's efforts, still going CRS's way. So I'm saying, okay, well, try a different lane. And you saw them try to dive towards the bottom. Didn't quite work, but COG can't stop trying.
This is actually going to be a pretty big fight. Blue buffs just came up, and they're actually quite timed with Dragon here. So this is big. We can see that Zamfira's just presence in a lot of mid lane engagements has pushed CRS off. So this being around Dragon is really big for them.
It is, and they've got the positioning. You've got actually Cop on the wrong side. This is... So CRS's best play right here, I think, is to actually create pressure on other turrets. To say, like, we can trade a turret for a dragon. Now, an outer turret is not worth as much as a dragon 20 minutes in, but at least it's something, and you're seeing that it forces COG to step back. COG feels confident, right? They're trying to cover all their bases, get the dragon, and stop the turret, have their cake and eat it too, and they're trying, but this might split COG up a little bit too much. CRS now grouped up, could maybe get a free kill on someone out of position.
They have position on Dragon, so it's CRS's entry into the fight. But remember, COG was kind of in the same spot CRS was. And when COG left the fight and came back in, they cleanly grabbed Dragon on a mental mind game. And it looks like it might even happen again here.
The problem is Elise is kind of on the wrong spot right here. If CRS can go in hard, no, they're not going to do it. Dragon's picked up, and actually a very clean disengage by COG. They completely swept. They didn't even completely sweep the ward control away. They just simply got the damage up there. But the mid lane turret's under siege. But even that's been controlled properly. Well done by COG.
Really great job keeping Ori mid. They didn't need the biggest amount of AoE that they had for the fight. And they hold this one down. Dominate with the rest of the team. Forced here to just kind of look at a turret they can take down with a few shots. But again, they pulled themselves into a team that's heavily melee focused. They have to be able to show a lot of presence before they can walk up to that turret.
Yeah, so good job then by CRS to keep the pressure going. COG, I guess just Zamfira getting chunked was enough to scare him away, but it's so hard to push a turret when you're fighting an Orianna. She can leave the ball out there and shockwave you when you go for it. COG flinching a bit there and saying, you know what, okay, we'll give you this turret. Still dragging her outer turret's worth it, but CRS are going to keep sieging. COG need to do something to stop this.
2-1 in kills. We had a bit of an aggressive flurry, but it slowed down. Everybody got cold feet. Leveling up nothing, keeps himself alive with a nice Thresh shield. Zane King doing his best to keep nothing here on the front line of that turret push.
He's a little bit hurt, but he's got the bloodthirst to keep himself sustained back up. And now they're COG feeling a little bit more comfortable. They've gone back and bought items off of the Dragon Gold they all just picked up, so a lot of these guys spent all their money. And remember, the ultis are all available for COG. They could go for a hardcore dive if someone steps out of position on Curse.
A lot of gold sitting on Voyboy right now. He's got about 2,400. That's quite a bit, and they have been not controlling these fights, but able to make COG think they're stronger, kind of push them off. It didn't happen so much with the Dragon, but you can see it there at mid-turret, and they kind of do it every so often. The items, I think, would do it a little bit better for them.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about sort of COG analyzing how strong they are is remember that 2 of their items on their mid laner are scaling items. They're still building up Tear of the Goddess, stacked 580 out of 750. The Rod of Age is only at 6 of the 10 minutes that it takes right now to power up. So COG, with a bunch of late game scaling items waiting to sort of empower themselves, even still have the presence to control dragons and fight for objectives. So this actually only gets better for this COG lineup here.
And already in the game, it's very slightly seen here, but look at COG's kills and deaths again. None of the AD, none on the mid lane, and none on Chris, the people that need to be alive. They're doing it with the initiators once again, and if they can keep doing it, it keeps them up for the experience, the gold, and they're going to scale really hard.
And keep in mind that Renekton does fall off more than most of the other conventional top laners there. Like, this is kind of like game 2 in the reverse, where realistically, COG can kind of like just wait out the team comps here because they're not that focused on having nothing here be super well positioned and like hide away from a bunch of diving bruisers, right? You've got a Sivir ulti and an Orianna. It's going to be pretty easy for Sivir to kite away from Mundo and Renekton until their ults time out. Meanwhile, Orianna is just doing so much work, tossing CC out there, putting up resistant damage, and it's going to be a scary situation for Curse. That's why you saw them siege a little while ago. They're kind of trying to put the pressure on in the mid game here and use Voyboy's Ziggs. I mean, he's got 300 CS. He's doing very well. Use Voyboy to get this game rolling.
100 bonus mana off of Seraph's Embrace as the Archangel Staff has been finished up by Zamfira, like you said, really putting out the plays for his team. And you can see he is actually already focusing on home guard, so if he's ever not in the fight and back at base, he knows he needs to be with his team. A huge factor in the crowd control and the fight initiation. Quaz coming on the backside of Chris here. They're going to go high five at the Tribush. And it looks like Chris is going to be locked up quite hard here. He gets the stun. Oh, he goes on the other side. Very nice. Zekent was his out. That is not going to be enough to kill him, but Dominate with the ulti down. A little bit of a speed boost here on the hunt could be enough. Oh, good guy, nothing here.
That was really, really well played right there. Chris also had the Spiderlings behind him as well, which blocked the first attempt by Dominate to Cleaver. And as Dominate chased through, nothing here, made the really good choice in the middle of that one. Spell shielded a bit early, but it worked out, and that was all kinds of a wonderful play on both sides. Now, Zamfira has finished his Archangel Staff. He's most of the way to Seraph's. That champion is starting to really, really unlock. And as soon as he adds, I'm going to guess, a Void Staff next, he's going to start chunking the tanks.
Kindle Gem picked up on Quas, not trying to get too healthy so Chris can take him down. But he knows when he needs to build. The lanes looking quite even right now, so nobody has the advantage there. 3-1 in turrets, however, so the vision increasingly going in favor of Course. As they move into the jungle. So that's going to be easier entry to the buffs, easier entry to what they need, and possibly the Dragons back that they really took for the first 2 games.
Absolutely here. So let's see, Chris, can you get the siege going? Because there's a bit of a clock on you guys right now. Voyboy, I think on something a little bit more comfortable. He's actually securely winning his lane in terms of minions. He's actually had some real pressure on the map. He's been integral to some of these pushes that Curse has been putting down. So finally, they found a champ for Voyboy that works well. And that's important because, again, even after this game, there's still at least one more to play here. So Curse has to keep that in mind. As does COG, where Voy's actually been useful finally in this series. That is important. But, you know, I still think the clock is on a little bit here for Curse. And what kind of play are they going to make? I think the siege game is still good. It's just hard to siege against Orianna.
And it's hard to siege when you really don't know what the other team brings to the table. In the first game, we had fight kind of after fight. They knew what damage they were doing. In the second game, no one killed each other, and that's what's happening again. There's power in both inventories, but everybody's afraid because they haven't seen the result yet. So it's kind of just the we are right now. We can sit here and we can farm.
Yep, high-pressure tournament games, these guys very risk-averse right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's caused them to take a whole lot of thought about, like, okay, what can we do ideally next time? The Dragon is going to keep forcing the conflict, and Curse actually really making a stand here. Curse says, you know what, we're strong enough to take this Dragon. We're going to zone you out with this Ziggs. I like this by Void. With blue buff, he can keep putting out mines, keep putting out satchels. Curse should have decent position here.
They want to force this fight. This is exactly what they need. They have the AoE for this. On the hunt, Ragnarok coming in. Zcant right in the front line. Does he get Timbers out? Yes, he does. But it isn't going to be enough. Zcant falls just after. Chris is actually turning tail here with Zamfira. Not much damage from that shockwave onto Cobb, and he is not deterred from the fight. They start to pursue into the jungle, also taking down nothing here. Zamfira, the Burning Agony is on. The shield is there, though. The Saracen Brace is not finished, or it was, but it's not going to be enough.
1,258 gold from Cobb's passive on that kill. Dominate specifically stopped chasing to give that one away. And the hardcore engage comes through the mines. The problem is they don't kill Zcant really in time. He survives the initial engage and lets the counter engage happen right here. So at this point, you have an untouched AD carry just putting out damage. The Orianna Shockwave, it comes in too late to stop Cobb. You've got Draven, pretty much the highest DPS champion in the game. If untouched, untouched. That's gonna happen to you. Here's the money shot. Bam! 302 plus 1258.
Dang.
Yeah.
So much gold in the pocket. 6-3 now is just saying they don't know what damage they can do. It's now apparent. 30 minutes into this game, they grab a quick 5,000 gold lead there, putting it up a little bit more from what it was before. And we're seeing huge core items coming out of Voyboy, of the rest of Curse now. 4,000 gold cop. Go spend some money.
Hey, he's gonna one-shot the Infinity just like last time. So that's how you play it, right? That's so Draven right there. Just look, buy some items, cash in 2 grand, buy an eye edge, man mode that. That's how you do it. Only way to play Draven.
And it looks like Curse has kind of canceled out that factor of seeing nothing here, Zamfira and Chris not dying. It looks like it's really Voyboy and Cobb taking the role of that now this time. 1-0 and 3 for both of them. 358 CS. We mentioned that Voyboy was going into the jungle and taking creeps, but it's a little over excessive.
He's got a lot of money. This is full Frog in Season 2 style. And what I like here from Voy is he's going towards a Lich Bane. The Sheen's already done, but this says, yep, we really, really are going to siege your turrets down. And a Ziggs with his passive and a Lich Bane on does so freaking much damage to turrets that COG's going to have to actually force the issue here, even though they're down 4,000 gold. Once Lich Bane's done, they can't let Curse siege. Curse will just demolish their turrets.
And the fight initiation is scary. They got someone that they wanted. They got Zcant, but he got Tibbers out, which continued to do damage. So that initiation has to be perfect. What could that be if Zcant isn't even the right target?
I mean, the problem is it's a whole bunch of tanky frontliners and then like a Ziggs and Draven hiding in the back. Yeah, so giant crits, right? He one-shot an IH, a lot of damage right there. Good luck with that, buddy. You can see 1,155 damage crits on minions from Cobb here. So the hooks need to land on a Draven or Ziggs. That's what needs to happen is somehow COG has to find their way in. You know, if that's an Elise Repel or an Olaf flank, basically someone has to get to the back line and get a Shockwave or get a Miracle Hook from Zane King. Without that, this siege continues, and Curse eventually takes the game.
Voyboy is completely keeping the team at bay here. That was huge props to him on that one. Dominate was throwing cleavers in, but COG could not do anything. No,
they can't. They're being held far away. They have so few initiators. So unlike last game where they had Leona, that got banned this time by Curse. And with Curse banning Leona, it allowed them to play a siege game. It allowed them to be very confident in playing Draven, saying, well, COG, you're not going to easily get in on us, but here's the attempt.
Coming from the side, this is what they need, that pincer move. They're going to be able to grab Dominate, but that is where the HP is coming from. They can't focus the tanks. That didn't even do any damage to Quas, and they are going to keep pursuing this fight. Nothing here, turns around to try and grab some gold for himself, but it's not enough for the kill.
So Curse going to keep moving forward. 2 champions, all they really need. Tibbers can take 1 turret shot, and this turret's likely to fall down right afterwards, actually. Curse with a lot of control. I think they're maybe too low to risk Baron, but they can stay for the inhibit back in time.
They got to get back. Zamfira still doing a bit of damage, but this build has left him as way too much utility for his team. He's not able to put out the damage. A Command Shockwave didn't even deter Cobb, let alone hurt Quaz in that last fight.
Yeah, so once again, COG couldn't get into the backline. Voyboy and Cobb were largely unthreatened, and even if they were threatened, they certainly didn't go down. And again, that's kind of the Elise pick right there. It's not really a dive buddy with Ziploc. You can't like Elise ult both those guys in and expect them to really take down the back line by the two of them. And so that removed a lot of potential here for COG to deal with the back line. Instead, they're at this sort of weird state where it's like, you kind of just got to hit Renekton and Mundo in the face and hope you deal more damage. Problem is, their comp isn't really built to do that, so COG kind of put themselves into a weird bind here.
See, looking at the inventories, take a bit of stock here. Cop finishing, Voyboy rather, finishing up the Lich Bane. And see real pain coming out of that. 2-0 and 4 for him. Cop 2-0 and 4 as well. Those two doing very well for their team. Overall, both sitting with 13,005 in their pocket, and it's 3,000 gold or 2,500 more than anything on the side of COG. So these fights should be swift in the favor of Curse, and I think this is really what the voters expected when they were voting for Curse standing behind them.
Exactly. These two guys have put up have gotten better and better, I think, throughout the series, Cop and Voyboy together. So Quas got so much pressure put onto him that he is, I wouldn't say underperforming, but certainly held down this game. You mentioned the gold leaders. Quas is definitely 4 grand behind his teammates, but they've got enough backline to carry it through.
Ooh, getting a little antsy there. COG going in again. Draven coming from the outside with the blades, and it looks like Cop will not be able to get into the fight just yet. We'll have to see how this plays out. Quas very controlled on that, as well as Dominate. Last time Quas probably would have gone into that fight, but these guys are wholly communicating and definitely have the upper hand. Dominate's going to be able to chase this down. No, the flash goes out. The Lantern, Thresh Express back to safety.
But they're still maybe chasing through. Nah, this is going to get them out here. But again, Curse is the team in the lead, and they've done a bunch of damage. They can start going for objectives again, whether that's a side lane turret or a push for the Baron.
Looks like they may have an upper edge here, enough that they want that Baron. They put down a whole slew of wards. Looks like Ziploc's able to dodge those out. They are going to hold him at bay here. It may be an attempt, but this is going to be scary if they want to try to get back in. Ziploc is just on the outside, but he's got Ghost.
Well, they can try again for the steal. With the Lantern, it wouldn't be that unsafe, but no, it's going to be quickly taken down. COG a little bit gun-shy and trying to face check that. They know they could be jumped on by a Flash Tibbers, for example, and that could have spelled a number of kills. So this is COG saying, okay, we'll give you the chance at Baron. We're not going to throw an entire team fight at you as well. We'll play again for another day. But now COG have to survive a siege against Baron buff. That's going to be hard.
That's not what you want to see. Dominate definitely playing a lot stronger of a Mundo that came out in the first game. They've gotten this going, and we're seeing how they're using that advantage. Curse was really stalled out, and I think they did it to themselves in the first game. And like you said, something has changed in the series for them, and they're doing a lot better. Yeah,
they've got really Cop and Voyboy really rolling right here. The two longest standing members on the lineup for Curse. They're really putting it up now when it matters the most here. This game 3, I think, looks the most convincing of any of the games we've seen so far in this series. And it's like, all right, Voy got something comfortable. Cop's doing well. The 2v2 lane went just fine. And they're starting to really scale up in these team fights. They're hard to deal with. COG they don't even have a comp that'll deal with those champions. So it's really just on Voy and Cop to keep playing at this level, and they can carry their team on their backs.
Quas. Oh, there's the Ala Command Shockwave coming in. Voyboy can take that down to 25% HP. Ziploc is being aggressed on. Nothing here, trying to give his team on the hunt. A little bit of utility to save on this fight, and it looks like they will do so. Not much damage was done to the turret there, but we talked about that. If Curse approaches the turret, it's for the fight, not for the quick takedown.
Yeah, and now inhibitor turrets do regen as of the 3.14 patch, so if they push too slowly, they don't make any actual headway. But you just saw a fight that started with Voyboy getting caught, and he, oh my gosh.
Oh, coming back.
Woo. So that's really scary, and now I think Chris can go in.
Great job. The 6-foot sidestep by Chris, and he keeps himself alive. The turret will go down, though. They wanted it after there wasn't enough COG members to take out for themselves, and they're going to turn around and grab a pickup onto Ziploc there. The inhibitor goes down. Curse starts to gain a huge map advantage on this one.
And here we go. These guys take one inhib. The second one laid open as well. This will be 2 inhibs at least. And with Baron regen, they could just stay in here.
Yeah, Baron's going to be huge for this, especially the damage that Cop is putting out. It's one of those just complete thought changers. You get hit by one axe, and you do not want to do what you were set out to do.
No, not at all. And in fact, Curse can keep the push going on the bottom lane because they've got a giant minion wave leading the charge here. Again, the regen keep these guys healthy. Will COG go? They're looking for it.
There's the on the hunt. The Talisman of Ascension has not been used yet. Is that for the disengage? They only get Zken. The ults are not enough coming from Zamfira right now. 60 seconds on the clock as he goes down, and it only took a few shots from the entire team.
And there we go. Another inhibitor go down. Ziploc just respawning now. COG actually looked for a 4v5 earlier. Chris not likely to go anywhere good. Zane King dropping as well.
Dominate was just standing in front of that, taking damage as he put his ultimate on, and it pulled COG into a scary, scary fight. This turret's going to go down, and the base is in shambles for COG.
And now it's just Curse cleaning up all the scraps. This is going to be their game. They put themselves within one of getting back into the LCS. Curse looking better and better and better as the series goes on.
Incredibly more definitive in this game. There was no pause. They didn't even get the first Dragons, but Curse knew the entire time how to do it again. They got back on the bike, and they're going to pull out a second win.
Very well played by these guys, 2-1. They started game one with a loss. They came back, slowed the game down very heavily and regrouped and said, all right, we're doing good. Now, the players who were, I think, shaky at the start have turned themselves on. All of Curse firing on full cylinders. They look like the Curse that we've seen in the LCS for a year so far.
First game, probably a little worrisome for the fans. It definitely looked like a different Curse, a Curse that was completely retooled but didn't have that vim, vigor, and vitality that you would usually see.
Yeah. BBV, though, not here. Much, it's not even. No. But Curse looking a lot better in that one, honestly, putting themselves together. And COG, of course, now up against the ropes is the thing. They're up here, game 4 coming up. They're one game away from elimination. They won the first game. They can think back at what happened there in that first game and say, okay, let's start adapting some of those decisions right there. Let's start bringing back what worked so well in game 1. The problem is some of what worked so well is getting banned away by Curse, with them taking away Leona and them taking away Riven. A lot of those options are gone.
It's good when you've done your homework. You're able to really get under the skin of your opponents and figure out what's going on. The COG maw has been huge, and I think for 2 factors. One, it's really, really unpredictable, and it just comes in strong. It's kind of what we've been seeing with the Amumu being played, a Warwick being played. Yeah, they could have focused those lanes and done it, but nobody's seen that in a while, so you're not knowing what to expect as you move on in the game. And then they're just taking their champions, so it kind of doesn't work out for them. All the comfort's being removed from COG.
Exactly, and that's kind of the issue, is when you start losing all of your ability to play as a team, when a couple champions get removed. Like, Chris pretty much carried a large portion of game 1 on Riven. When Riven got dropped out, he's not had good performances on Elise. Quas has held up or exceeded Chris for the last 2 games so far. Chris needs a new top laner to play. It can't be Riven because it's going to get banned again. It's something else that's going to work well in that lane to win that matchup. They even tried this game just camping the heck out of him, and it still didn't work. So find something there.
In games like this, you obviously don't want to say, yeah, we can give them that champion again. But I'm sure if Quaz was saying that Elise was fine in the top lane, if we can get Renekton again or I can get a similar champion, we should give them that. Because maybe, like you're saying, it wasn't their best, and Chris noticed that.
Yeah, there's no reason for Curse to change their bans at this point. The only exception being, is the Ziggs too scary, which means they might leave up something that's really important. That's going to be the interesting decision to make, is the Ziggs had such a good success rate this tournament versus what just worked last game.
All right, well, we've got to take a quick break, but when we return, it's on to game 4 between Curse and